When the news broke that Dolly Parton was gone, millions of people felt as if they had lost someone they had somehow known their entire lives. But for Miley Cyrus, this was not simply the death of a legend, an icon, or the woman whose songs shaped country music. This was the loss of someone who had been woven into her life almost from the beginning. And within minutes, Miley's first words stunned fans with their simplicity. She said the world had lost the purest soul, and admitted that her heart ached. Yet behind that short message is a story far deeper than most people realize. Dolly was there before Miley became Hannah Montana, before the scandals, before the stadiums, before the reinventions. She watched a little girl become one of the most famous and misunderstood performers on earth. She defended Miley when others attacked her, guided her without trying to control her, and remained family in a way fame could never manufacture. But there is one detail about the day Dolly died that makes this tribute feel almost impossible to ignore. A date already tied to some of Miley's biggest turning points suddenly became connected to her greatest goodbye. Dolly Parton's death on August 25, 2026, closed a chapter in American music that many people assumed would somehow never end. She was 80 years old, but for generations of fans, Dolly seemed almost timeless. Always creating, always joking, always turning pain into something bright enough for strangers to carry home. Official tributes remembered her as a singer, songwriter, actress, entrepreneur, and humanitarian. Those descriptions are true, but they do not explain why Miley Cyrus' reaction struck so many people differently. Miley was not looking backward at a distant hero. She was grieving a woman whose presence had stretched across nearly every stage of her life. The public knew the easiest version of the story. Dolly was Miley's godmother. Miley called her Aunt Dolly. They appeared together, sang together, joked together, and openly praised one another. But the real history began before Miley could understand any of it. Dolly had been friends with Miley's father, Billy Ray Cyrus, since the early years of his career. Their friendship became the bridge that brought Dolly into Miley's life almost immediately. Dolly later explained that Billy Ray asked her to be Miley's godmother when Miley was born, and she accepted. There was no need for a grand public ceremony to make the bond real. In Dolly's eyes, Miley became one of her own. That detail matters because it changes how we should hear Miley's grief. Dolly did not enter Miley's world after fame had already transformed everything. She was there before the machinery of celebrities surrounded the family. Before millions knew Miley's name, Dolly already knew the people who loved her. Long before audiences debated Miley's choices, Dolly had watched her grow. And perhaps that is why Dolly's support later carried a different weight. She was not judging a headline. She remembered the child behind it. For a generation raised on Disney Channel, their relationship also existed inside a strange overlap between fiction and real life. Dolly appeared on Hannah Montana as Aunt Dolly, allowing millions of young viewers to watch a version of their actual bond play out on television. To many children, she was simply Miley's glamorous, funny relative who could walk into a scene and make everything feel warmer. Only later did many fans realize that the affection was not an invention written for the show. The cameras borrowed something that already existed. That connection became especially important when Miley began trying to escape the image that had made her famous. The transformation from child star to adult artist became one of the most heavily criticized celebrity stories of its era. Every outfit, performance, interview, and public decision seemed to trigger a new argument. People who had loved Hannah Montana suddenly acted as if Miley owed them the same version of herself forever. It was easy for strangers to reduce her life to a spectacle. It was much harder for someone who had known her since infancy to forget that she was still a person growing up in public. Dolly did not pretend every decision would be universally understood. Instead, she defended Miley's right to discover herself. She spoke about the pressure of being trapped inside a good girl image and suggested that Miley needed space to break free from a character the public refused to separate from the real woman. Coming from Dolly, that support carried an unusual kind of authority. Dolly understood performance, reinvention, and the complicated bargain between a public image and a private self. She had spent decades controlling her own larger-than-life persona while protecting parts of her life that truly belonged to her. So when Miley faced one of the loudest waves of criticism in modern pop culture, Dolly did something rare. She did not publicly abandon her to protect her own reputation. She did not join the pile-on. She did not demand that Miley return to the version audiences found comfortable. She trusted the person she had known for years. Dolly spoke about Miley's intelligence and instinct, and her message was clear. Growing up was not betrayal. Changing was not proof that the child people remembered had disappeared. That may be one of the reasons Miley's tribute now feels heavier than a typical celebrity farewell. Grief often exposes the moments that were easy to overlook while someone was alive. Fans can see the photographs, the duets, and the award show appearances, but they cannot measure how much it mattered to have one person remain steady when the rest of the world was shouting. Dolly was famous for giving advice, but her relationship with Miley was never presented as a lecture. Miley could run ideas by her. They could talk. Dolly praised her as smart, intuitive, talented, and successful. The guidance came with trust rather than ownership. Their creative connection also contained a side many casual viewers missed. When Miley and Dolly collaborated on Rainbowland, the song was more than a cute family duet. Miley described a desire to say something about the state of the country and the world, imagining people with differences finding a way to live together. The title itself suggested a place where color and difference did not have to become reasons for division. Dolly's presence gave the song another dimension because she had built her career by speaking to audiences who often came from very different worlds. That collaboration was a reminder that their bond had survived Miley's many artistic eras. They were not frozen inside the nostalgia of Hannah Montana. They continued to meet each other as working artists. Dolly could be a godmother, a family figure, a comic partner, and a creative collaborator without demanding that Miley remain the little girl from the past. For Miley, that kind of relationship may have been priceless. Dolly knew where she came from, yet she did not insist that Miley stay there. There was another surprising layer to their connection. In 2024, genealogy research revealed that Miley and Dolly were also distantly related by blood, identified as seventh cousins once removed. It was almost too perfect for a relationship that had always sounded like family. They had already spent years calling each other family through love, history, and choice. Then came evidence of an actual ancestral connection. It did not create their bond, of course, but it added a strange twist to a story already built around the idea that some relationships feel destined long before anyone can explain why. Dolly's humor also left its mark on Miley through moments that could easily disappear beneath the weight of a national tribute. One story that surfaced over the years involved an unforgettable gift, a life-size mannequin shaped to Dolly's proportions and dressed in one of her outfits. It was absurd, theatrical, affectionate, and unmistakably Dolly. The detail matters because grief can sometimes turn a person into a monument. Everyone begins speaking only in perfect, solemn sentences. But the people who truly knew someone often remember the strange jokes first, the ridiculous presents, the private laughter, the details that would sound unbelievable if anyone else had done them. Miley also shared memories of messages from Dolly that revealed how directly affectionate she could be. One Mother's Day message became particularly meaningful because Dolly expressed her love in a way that moved Miley deeply. This was not the polished language of a press release. It was the language of someone who wanted another person to know, without confusion, how much she mattered. That is the hidden contrast at the center of Dolly's public image. The world saw rhinestones, wigs, punchlines, and enormous stages. The people closest to her also saw someone capable of making love feel immediate and personal. Perhaps that is why Miley's first public words after the death were so short. Sometimes grief does not arrive as a speech. It arrives as disbelief. I can't believe we just lost the purest soul. The sentence did not try to summarize a 7-decade career. It did not list awards. It did not explain Dolly's importance to music. It sounded like someone staring at a reality she had not yet caught up with. Then came the simple admission that her heart ached. For fans accustomed to seeing Miley command a stage with enormous emotion, the restraint itself became powerful. And then there was the date. Dolly died on August 25th. For Miley, August 25th was already loaded with personal history. It was her father Billy Ray's birthday. It was also the date Hannah Montana premiered in 2006, launching Miley into the kind of fame that would reshape her entire life. Years later, Wrecking Ball was released on August 25, 2013, and the same date was tied to the controversial MTV performance that became one of the defining moments of her public reinvention. In 2023, Miley released Used to Be Young on August 25th, explaining that the date had long carried special meaning for her personally and professionally. Now, after all those milestones, August 25th carries another meaning. The day connected to her father, her childhood fame, one of her biggest transformations, and a song about looking back suddenly became the date she lost Dolly. There's something almost unbearably symbolic about that. A calendar square that already held so many versions of Miley's life now holds the loss of someone who had watched those versions unfold. The child, the Disney star, the rebel, the adult artist. Dolly had been connected to the story before the public knew how to tell it. This does not mean the date was fate, and there is no need to invent a mystery where none exists. But emotionally, the coincidence is striking. Miley had chosen August 25th for Used to Be Young because she understood how dates can become containers for memory. Now the same date may carry memories she never wanted to add. That is one reason her tribute resonated so quickly. The grief was not happening on an empty day. It landed on a day already crowded with the history of becoming Miley Cyrus. For Miley, the loss also carries the pain of watching a family story change forever. Billy Ray and Dolly had shared a friendship long before Miley became the center of the connection. His own tribute remembered how Dolly could turn even an embarrassing moment into laughter. He recalled walking into her dressing room in the early 1990s to apologize for tabloid rumors claiming they were having an affair. Dolly, according to his memory, simply winked and joked that the trash sold records. That was classic Dolly, refusing to let a ridiculous story control the mood of the room. But Billy Ray also revealed something more tender. He said Dolly had recently sent him a message telling him she loved him with her whole heart. He answered her memory with the promise that he always would too. That detail gives Miley's grief another dimension. Dolly was not only Miley's godmother. She was part of a relationship that connected generations of the Cyrus family. When Miley says her heart aches, the loss belongs to a network of memories stretching back to before her birth. What we can see, however, is enough to understand why this loss is so different. Miley did not simply admire Dolly. She had a relationship with her that survived childhood, fame, rebellion, reinvention, collaboration, and adulthood. Dolly was there when Miley was too young to remember her first meeting. She was there on television during the era that made Miley famous. She was there when Miley's public image became a battleground. She was there as a creative partner when Miley became an artist on her own terms. And, in one of the strangest details of all, they later learned that the family language they had used for years was also connected by a distant bloodline. For viewers who only know the headlines, that may be the real story worth remembering. Dolly helped shape Miley's life not by writing every chapter for her, but by remaining a presence while Miley wrote them herself. That distinction matters. A controlling mentor tries to preserve a younger person's image of them. A loving guide can watch someone change and still recognize them. Dolly appeared to give Miley that freedom. She could disagree, advise, laugh, collaborate, and love without turning that love into a leash. That may be the final reason Miley's tribute feels so painful. The world saw a legend disappear, but Miley lost a witness to her entire journey. Dolly knew the beginning before anyone imagined the ending. She saw the child, the television star, the rebel, and the artist who finally learned to own every version of herself. Now Miley must continue without the woman who understood that change did not erase who she had always been. And maybe that is what makes Dolly's memory impossible to reduce to one title. She was godmother, family, protector, collaborator, and friend. She could make Miley laugh with something outrageous, defend her when public opinion turned cruel, then stand beside her in song as an equal artist. Miley's tribute was short. The history behind it was not. And perhaps the tears came because everyone suddenly understood. Some goodbyes contain an entire lifetime of memories no audience will ever completely understand. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments which memory of Dolly Parton you think Miley will carry with her forever. Will it be the little girl who knew her as family before the world knew her name? The years when Dolly defended her right to grow and change? Their music together? Or that strange, unforgettable date that now connects some of the biggest moments of Miley's life with her hardest goodbye? Because Dolly's legacy was never only about the songs everyone can name. It was also about the people she made feel loved, protected, encouraged, and understood. And for Miley Cyrus, that legacy is not something she has to search for in old documentaries or history books. It is written across her own life. If you believe Dolly's kindness mattered just as much as her music, leave a heart for her below. Share this video with someone who grew up watching Miley and Dolly together, because sometimes the relationships behind the headlines tell the most powerful story of all. And if you want more emotional stories about the hidden bonds, final words, private memories, and unforgettable tributes that connect the world's biggest stars, subscribe and turn on notifications. We do not just look at the famous moment everyone saw. We look for the history behind it, the details that make it matter, and the human story people often miss. Dolly may be gone, but the people she loved are still carrying pieces of her forward. In songs, in laughter, in memories. And perhaps, somewhere inside Miley's heartbreak tonight, there is also gratitude for having had a godmother, a guide, a collaborator, and family member whose love lasted through every version of her. Rest in glory, Dolly. And thank you for the stories that will keep being told.